Dublin, de stad van de muziek. De thuisbasis van U2. De stad van de Guinness en de Jameson. Maar ook de stad waar ondanks een overheersend katholiek geloof er sprake is van een steeds groter wordend homo-evenement. De Dublin Pride.
Homoseksualiteit in het geloof in Ierland is niet altijd even makkelijk geweest. In 1982 werd hier in het Fairviewpark de 31-jarige homo Declan Flynn doodgeslagen. De 4 Ieren die daarvoor verantwoordelijk waren, werden nooit gestraft.
That case was particularly fractious because when it came to court, the man's sexuality was used as a sort of mitigating factor in the defence for the people who perpetrated the murder. And that outraged the community at the time. So they were outraged with the judiciary system, with the police's handling of the case. And they staged a rally here in Dublin on O'Connell Street. And that was really the first official Dublin Pride parade. Those people at the time were quite brave to do what they did because homosexuality was illegal in Ireland until 1993.
Homoseksuelen kunnen elkaar op steeds meer plekken ontmoeten. Volgend jaar komt er ook een referendum over de legalisatie van het homohuwelijk.
It's clear that all parties have accepted that there should be a referendum. I think most parties are in favour of gay marriage, so I hope whoever is in government this time next year, that the referendum will happen.
I don't underestimate the challenge. I think winning a referendum in any country on any issue is a very difficult thing. And there'll be an awful lot of work to be put into it. And we have to make sure that we can engage all of the population so that we can get the highest possible yes vote.
I know for a fact, I'm quite sure that there will be a very sophisticated campaign by the people who are opposed to same-sex marriage. People like Iona, the Iona Institute, which is a Catholic-led body in Ireland which campaigns against various things, abortion and same-sex marriage are two. And they're funded by groups in the United States, evangelical Christian groups in the United States. So they have quite a lot of money behind them. So they're able to afford to wage a campaign to urge people to vote no.
There will be people who will campaign against this, and we have to, as campaigners for it, we have to engage with those people to try and persuade them that this is a matter that's very important for our entire country.
If I was gay, I would think hip-hop hates me. Have you read the YouTube comments lately? Man that's gay gets dropped on the daily. We become so numb to what we're saying.
Niet iedere homoseksueel hecht evenveel waarde aan het homohuwelijk.
I don't think it's personally important, but it's important as a principle. I don't necessarily know if I want to get married, but I want to be able to decide whether I get married or not. I don't want the state to tell me, no, you're not getting married. It should be my own decision.
Yeah, I'm excited because I'm Irish and it's going to be a great moment in history when it comes into law, so yeah, can't wait.
You know, on the surface, people don't have a problem with gay people, but if they have any sort of doubt about you know, the sanctity of marriage, you know, there's a suggestion that, you know, oh, if we allow gay people to marriage, it will somehow threaten the institution of marriage, which I think is silly. I just think it's a silly argument.
So it's really important for us to make clear to people that actually this isn't religious marriage. We're not looking to change religious marriage. We're looking only to change civil marriage and how the state treats its citizens.
Marriage in the church is a sacrament. It's one of the 7 sacraments, so it's a very sacred union. And whether that should be celebrated between 2 men or 2 women, I'm just unsure about it. You know, again, the church would say absolutely not. If I was to contact my bishop and say there are 2 ladies here or 2 guys here that want to get married, he would say absolutely not.
In Ierland heeft het geloof lange tijd de acceptatie van homo's gedwarsboomd. Hoewel het geloof nog steeds erg aanwezig is, verbetert de homotolerantie beetje bij beetje.
The attitudes have changed brilliantly, and it has moved from being a very cold place to live for lesbian and gay people to being a brilliant place to live for lesbian and gay people, and that's happened in a very short period of time.
I think there's pockets of society where it's not accepted. Maybe a lot of older people, a lot of religious groups that we've talked about. There's still a lot of religious-run institutions in the country, but generally speaking, yes, I'd say on the scale of the world, Ireland is quite an accepting country for gay people.
Over het algemeen worden homoseksuelen in Ierland geaccepteerd. Toch staat het land qua tolerantie erg laag op de lijst die de International Lesbian and Gay Association gemaakt heeft.
Attitudes are brilliant, but what the ILGAMAT measures is law, and our legal change still has to catch up with that. You can change all the laws you want, but that doesn't always mean that people's daily lives get better, and it doesn't mean that their lived experience is good. So in Ireland, we've got the lived experience which has been improving radically, but the laws haven't changed.
But in Ireland up to recent times, as in 15, 20 years ago, there was still a lot of traditional thinking and influence by the Catholic Church. And in a way it was unfortunate, because I think many people were afraid to say that they were gay because they were afraid that they would be rejected. If somebody came to me and they said to me, you know what, I want to go to church and I want to be part of the life of the church. My faith is really important, but I'm in a relationship, in a gay relationship, and that is a sexual relationship. But I have thought about it, I've reflected about it, and for me, God is okay with that. Well, I'd say, it's your life, and I respect that, and I would never exclude them, I would include them. With young people for many years, and I know that very often people who are afraid to tell their families because they're for fear of rejection, or tell their friends, or tell whoever, you know, unfortunately they turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol to help them to cope with that inner pain, and sadly the worst scenario is sometimes just suicide, you know. So that's how horrific it must be for the individual.
I think nowadays amongst the younger generation, a lot of people seem to be a lot more comfortable coming out. But that's not true for everybody. I know that homophobic bullying is a very real situation for a lot of people as well, and that's something that we're trying to tackle.
I have friends who've had issues with their families not reacting well to the news that they are gay. I know people who've been thrown out of their homes because their parents couldn't accept it. I've known people who, when they've come out as gay, they've lost friends because of it. People have stopped talking to them. So certainly discrimination does exist. It is still a real problem. It's a case of recognising how far we've come while at the same time acknowledging that we've a long way to go.
There's lots of young people today who are out of the closet and are proud, and lots of people who are proud in their workplaces and in college, being gay, lesbian, bi and trans, but still there's high rates of violence, which would suggest that some people still have an issue with it, and so it isn't completely perfect.
I think one of the things over the many years of Irish history was it was a very dark place to be a lesbian and gay person, and part of it, not all of it, but part of it was because of the influence of the church.
The church in Ireland has played a role in keeping rights for LGBT people down to a large extent. Irish people were very much subject to the thoughts and the doctrines of the Catholic Church. The church has been very influential, but I do think that's slipping.
Eventually the rules will change in all religions, because the inevitability of wanting to cherish all people equally means that you have to treat them equally. I think ultimately the logic of science and the logic of moral understanding points you only in one direction, that lesbian and gay couples, just like heterosexual couples, are God-given, God-made, and therefore should be cherished equally.
Tegenwoordig is het zo dat jongeren de kerk steeds minder serieus nemen.
Well, they have to say what they say because of what their teaching is based on. So it does make sense, but it's anti-human, so I reject it.
The fact that most schools in this country remain run by the Catholic Church, that means there is a sort of inbuilt homophobia within the system.
The church, the institutional church, differentiates between a person being homosexual and the act of homosexuality. And I think that's a very important distinction. In terms of the act of homosexuality, the church has an issue with that because the institutional church would say that the act of sex is between a man and a woman primarily to enhance their relationship, but also for the procreation of children. So that's where the institutional church would make the distinction between the person being gay and the act of the homosexual act. In my own mind, there's always that conflict, that inner conflict between what the church teaches and my experience of life of people who come in here. People do not choose to be gay, they're born gay. And then they meet somebody of the same sex, they fall in love, as any two people will. And I understand that for them, it's very difficult if they are being told by the institutional church your relationship is good, but you cannot have sex in that relationship. The Bible is split into two parts. There's the Old Testament, which was before Jesus, and then there's the New Testament. And Jesus, the whole of the New Testament is about love. And that's what God is about. God is about love. And so God, there are some Christians that I will hear who say that God condemns somebody who's homosexual. He doesn't. Really he doesn't. And as I said to you earlier on, if he does, if that's the God that's out there, then I'm becoming an atheist because I don't believe in that God.
God staat dus voor liefde en dat is ook het uitgangspunt van de Dublin Pride.
When the whole community takes to the streets and marches through the streets of Dublin, it really sends out a unified message. So it shows that we're all together and pulling together to try to achieve the same aims.
It's important also not to forget that it is only a week and the parade is only one day, so we have to maintain that over a year, not just, we have to keep that happiness, that acceptance constantly, so that's a challenge, but yeah.
Hopefully, well, it's all going in the right direction. So next year there's going to be a referendum. I think a yes vote will have a profoundly positive impact on all of society, but especially on lesbian and gay people and lesbian and gay young people, because that's a great message for them to hear, that the people of Ireland considered the issue and decided that they were of equal worth, that they should be cherished equally.
I just hope that whatever the outcome is, that people are happy, that people feel included and not rejected, and that they have an understanding that no matter what, that God loves them.